the voice that keeps you small. The most dangerous person in your life may be you. Not because you hate yourself, because you know exactly how to stop yourself. You know which doubts to whisper. You know which memories to replay. You know which failures still hurt. You know how to make fear sound like wisdom. So you hesitate, you postpone, you overthink, then you call it being realistic. Another opportunity passes. Another message stays unsent. Another dream gets pushed into next month. And quietly you tell yourself, maybe I'm just not ready. But what if you are? What if the problem isn't your ability? What if you've been negotiating with a voice that fears change? A voice that sounds intelligent, a voice that sounds protective, a voice that has learned your weaknesses perfectly. It doesn't scream. It whispers. Wait. Think about it. You'll probably fail. People will judge you. Maybe you're not good enough. And because the voice is inside your head, you trust it. That is where self-sabotage begins. Not with destruction, with a convincing conversation. Chapter 1. The voice in the mirror. You wake up with a thought already waiting. Maybe it's about yesterday, something embarrassing, something you wish you'd said differently, something someone said about you. You replay it while making coffee. The kitchen is quiet. The cup warms your hands, but your mind is somewhere else. You are having a conversation with someone who isn't there. You defend yourself. You rewrite your answer. You imagine what they really meant. Then you notice something. You're exhausted before the day begins. This is the hidden cost of uncontrolled inner dialogue. Your mind can become a room you never leave, and some rooms are built from old fears. The problem isn't thinking. Thinking is useful. The problem is believing every thought deserves attention. It doesn't. A thought can be loud and still be wrong. A thought can feel familiar and still be harmful. A thought can sound logical and still be fear. This distinction changes everything. Imagine hearing, "You always ruin things." That's not analysis. That's a verdict. You're going to embarrass yourself. That's not prediction. That's fear wearing confidence. Nobody will understand you. That's not truth. That's loneliness speaking. Your first job isn't fighting these thoughts. It's noticing them. Give the voice a name if necessary. Not a dramatic name. Just the critic. When it speaks, observe. There it is again, the critic. It wants certainty. It wants safety. It wants you to avoid embarrassment. It wants you to stay where nothing can surprise you. Its intentions may even be protective. But protection can become imprisonment. A locked door can keep danger outside. It can also keep your life inside. This is why self-sabotage can feel strangely comfortable. Failure hurts. But familiar failure feels predictable. Trying something new creates uncertainty. So the mind offers an alternative. Don't try. Then you don't have to risk rejection. Don't apply. Then you don't have to hear no. Don't speak. Then nobody can criticize you. Don't leave. Then you don't have to face loneliness. The mind calls this safety. But sometimes safety is simply fear with better vocabulary. You need to learn the difference. Ask yourself, is this thought protecting me? Or is this thought shrinking me? That question creates distance, and distance gives you choice. You don't have to argue with every negative thought. You don't need to prove it wrong. Sometimes you simply say, noted, then continue. Your mind says you're not ready. You continue preparing. Your mind says they'll judge you. You continue anyway. Your mind says you'll fail. You accept that possibility. Then you act, because courage doesn't require positive thoughts. It requires action despite uncertainty. This is where emotional discipline begins. You stop demanding that your mind feel confident. You teach it to follow your values instead. Confidence can come later. Chapter 2. When your mind becomes your enemy. Self-sabotage rarely looks dramatic. Sometimes it looks like perfectionism. You keep improving the plan, you keep researching, you keep preparing, you keep waiting. Everything looks productive. Nothing actually moves. The document stays open. The application stays unfinished. The message remains in drafts. The idea remains an idea. You tell yourself, I just need more time. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes you're hiding inside preparation, because preparation feels safer than exposure. If you never finish, nobody can judge the finished product. If you never begin, nobody can watch you fail. Perfectionism becomes camouflage. It looks like high standards, but underneath there may be fear. Fear of being ordinary, fear of criticism, fear of discovering your limits, fear of discovering you are capable. Yes, even success can frighten people, because success changes expectations. Once you prove yourself capable, you have to keep living honestly. You can't hide behind "I can't" anymore. That can feel terrifying. So the mind creates distractions. You suddenly need to clean the room, check your phone, research another strategy, answer an unimportant message, make another coffee. Anything except the uncomfortable thing. Notice the pattern. Self-sabotage often happens immediately before growth. That doesn't mean every obstacle is psychological. Life contains real problems. But sometimes the obstacle is your own hesitation. The answer isn't harshness. Harshness creates another enemy. You don't need to become cruel toward yourself. You need to become precise. Instead of, I'm so lazy, ask, what am I avoiding? Instead of, I'm terrible at this, ask, what specifically needs improvement? Instead of, I always ruin everything, ask, what actually happened? Precision weakens emotional exaggeration. Your inner dialogue becomes cleaner. Facts replace insults. Observation replaces judgment. Action replaces rumination. This is how you regain control. Imagine you make a mistake. The old voice says, you're an idiot. The grounded voice says, that decision was poor. See the difference? One attacks identity. The other examines behavior. Identity attacks create shame. Behavior analysis creates learning. You can correct behavior. You cannot build a healthy life from self-contempt. So, change the language. Not because positive affirmations magically fix everything, because language shapes attention. If you constantly tell yourself you're broken, your mind searches for evidence. Every mistake becomes proof. Every rejection becomes confirmation. Every awkward moment becomes another piece of evidence. But if you say, that didn't work, your brain looks for the next move. This isn't pretending everything is fine. It's refusing to make one moment your entire identity. You failed at something. You are not failure. Someone rejected you. You are not rejection. You made a poor decision. You are not a poor decision. You feel afraid. You are not fear. This separation is powerful. It gives you room to act, and action is the antidote to endless internal debate. Not reckless action, small action. Send the email, make the call, write the first paragraph, take the walk, set the boundary, apply for the position, leave the conversation. One concrete movement can break an hour of rumination. Your mind wants another thought. Give it an action instead. Chapter 3. Becoming the voice you trust. Eventually, the goal isn't silence. Your mind will never become completely quiet, and it shouldn't. The goal is trust. You want to know that your inner voice won't destroy you during difficult moments. You want an internal conversation that is honest, firm, calm, useful, not endlessly comforting, not endlessly critical, useful. When you make a mistake, it tells you the truth. Then it tells you what comes next. When you succeed, it doesn't become arrogant. It simply recognizes progress. When someone rejects you, it doesn't collapse. It allows disappointment. Then it returns to reality. This is emotional maturity. You become your own reliable witness, not your own prosecutor. There is a difference. A prosecutor searches for guilt. A wise witness searches for truth. That distinction should shape your inner dialogue. So when your mind says, "They don't like you," ask, "Do I actually know that?" When it says, "This will never work," ask, "What evidence supports that?" When it says, "You're behind everyone else," ask, "Compared to whom?" When it says, "You're not ready," ask, "What would being ready actually require?" These questions interrupt automatic thinking. They bring you back to reality. And reality is usually less dramatic than imagination. You don't need to solve your entire future tonight. You need to handle the next decision. That is enough. There is another practice that changes everything. Stop speaking to yourself in ways you'd never speak to someone you love. Not because you need constant praise. Because cruelty is not discipline. You can be demanding without being destructive. You can say, "You need to work harder," without saying, "You're worthless." You can say, "You made a mistake," without saying, "You always ruin everything." You can say, "Get up and try again," without saying, "You're pathetic." Firmness creates movement. Humiliation creates paralysis. Learn the difference, then watch what happens. Your inner world becomes quieter. Not because there are fewer thoughts, because fewer thoughts control you. The critic still appears, but you recognize it. Fear still appears, but you don't automatically obey it. Doubt still appears, but you don't build your life around it. That is mastery, not controlling every thought, choosing which thoughts deserve authority. And there is something beautiful about that. You don't need to become fearless. You don't need to become endlessly confident. You don't need to become a different woman. You need to stop abandoning yourself whenever fear speaks. Let fear speak, then decide. Let doubt speak, then decide. Let the old story speak. Then write something new, because your inner dialogue is not a fixed script. It changes through repetition. Every time you replace an insult with precision, you change it. Every time you act despite doubt, you change it. Every time you survive discomfort without retreating, you change it. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you change it. Eventually, another voice becomes stronger. Not louder, stronger. A voice that says, "I can handle this. I don't need certainty. I can learn. I can change my mind. I can survive rejection. I can walk away. I can begin again." That voice doesn't promise an easy life. It promises something better. A reliable relationship with yourself. And that relationship matters more than motivation. Because motivation disappears. Self-trust remains. So tonight, listen carefully to your thoughts. Not all of them, just the recurring ones. Which sentence keeps appearing? "I'll fail. I'm behind. I'm too much. I'm not enough. I'll embarrass myself. I always ruin things." Find the sentence. Then question it. Where did it come from? What evidence supports it? What evidence contradicts it? What would you tell someone you love? Then choose a more accurate sentence, not a fantasy, something you can actually believe. Maybe, "I don't know yet. I'm learning. This is uncomfortable, not impossible. I can handle one step. I don't need everyone's approval. I can make mistakes without becoming one." Repeat that sentence through action. Because thoughts become believable when life confirms them. You don't think your way into self-trust. You behave your way into it. One promise, one boundary, one difficult conversation, one uncomfortable action, one honest morning, then another, and another, until something changes. The voice inside your head stops sounding like an enemy. It becomes an anchor. The room gets quiet. The coffee gets cold. The phone lights up again. Life still has problems. You still have fears. You still have doubts. But something is different. You no longer believe every thought simply because it came from you. You listen, you question, you choose, and sometimes that is the moment self-sabotage finally loses its power, not because the voice disappeared, because you stopped giving it the final word.